cell forever, not realizing they're actually in a cell and thinking they're free. And so what happened was that these colonial countries, like the British Empire, etc., they on the surface withdrew, but they left behind in those countries the bloodline, their agents, and crucially the secret society network, like I say, that they used to manipulate world events. And they've gone on controlling those countries ever since. And I can describe it very simply, the structure that they've created. Imagine a spider's web with the spider at the center, and the spider is at operational level in all this in Europe. The web goes out, and each strand is an organization, a country, whatever, that is answerable to the spider. So ultimately the center controls everything. And it's structured globally like a transnational corporation. With a transnational, they have a headquarters, and then they have subsidiary companies in each country. Okay. And those subsidiary companies in each country follow the orders of the headquarters. They do what they're told, they do it as they're told, and they do it according to the corporate blueprint. What this network of families have done is set up a structure exactly like that, except they're secret societies. So you have the center in Europe, the spider, and then in each country, the United States, Ireland, France, wherever, they have a network of secret societies and bloodline families that have the job of controlling that country's finance, banking, etc., business, government, any political party that has any chance of forming a government, control of the media at ownership level, etc. And so when the headquarters says, okay, we're now going to go to this stage of the operation, then these subsidiary networks in each country go to work to introduce that in their sphere of influence. And this is why, as I've traveled the world, like I say, I've been to 50 countries so far researching this, I have seen again and again the same things being introduced in different countries at the same time, justified by the same excuses. And it's possible because of this this network, this transnational corporation, if you like, of secret societies. And this is what is operating in the European Union and what brought the European Union about. You see,
Häiritteekö se nyt sua toi? Hyvä.
Miksi tää tekee tällaista?
Hei kulta. Silloin 5. päivä se meidän hääpäivä.
Joo.
Tuutko sä nyt mennään Viinin kirkkoon mun kanssa? Mennään ehtoolliselle. Ja mä oon nyt yhteydessä sinne kirkkoherravirastoon, jos voit sen... No ihan nopein.
Menen tällaisia näin.
Okei, no mutta käydään me kirkossa ehtoollisella.
Käydään.
Okei. Sitten silloin 5. päivä. Niin saanko mä viedä sut sinne La Familia
Juu,
syömään?
kyllä.
Mä varaan pöydän sitten.
Ei tarvitse, kun me mennään.
Ei se ole niin suosittu, että mä varaan pöytäsi.
Mennään mikä on vapaa. Onhan siinä Helsingissä niin hirveän paljon.
Mitä hyviä on?
Sinne familiaan mennään, tiedäksä, otetaan vitsi.
Ei, kun syödään se saa nyt rakuliin. Niin mä en mitään pizzaa syö. Mä haluan mennä sinne. Mä varaan pöytä ihan sinne. Me mennään kirkkoon 10. Ja sitten me mennään 6. Mä varaan 6 pöydän.
Eihän mulla ollut töitä silloin, nyt mun täytyy.
Katon, tarkistan.
Mulla on kalenteri huomenna tarkistaa. Kalenteri on yksi.
Nyt mä katon, että onko mun pippelit viinan kestävä. Mä vedän viinaa siihen. Sä vesity. Mä koitan. No siellä on jotain rikki, pakko olla, kun se vähän kirveltää.
No se on hyvä se desintio. Nyt laita siihen tunneliin.
Juu, mutta mä vähän aikaa odotan, että se haihtuu tuo alkoholi.
Joo.
Mutta ei niin pahasti kuin eilen.
Joo.
Mä oon tänään pessyt sen 2 kertaa. Sitä tuntuu.
Tää on semmonen lapsi, jolla on nenää, joka on kasvain nenässä.
Mä en tiedä miten paljon mä kärsin.
Mutta se on huono.
Hei.
Näkisit kuinka
Hei.
se ymyy.
Tiedätkö sä miten mä kärsin tosta?
Me voidaan leikata.
Mutta tiedätkö sä miten paljon lapsi syntyy vammaisena?
Tiedän. Jos joku, niin minä tiedän.
Ja se on ihan vitun väärin.
Niin on.
Se on väärin. Eli miksi Jumala ei suojele niitä lapsia? Hei. Miksi ei se suojele?
Joo.
Oikeesti. Mikä se niinku suunnitelma on, että se ei se antaa niinku lasten syntyä vammaisena.
Uskomatonta, kun toi nauraa toi lapsi.
Ja sitten kätkyt kuolema on ihan kauhea asia. Se on ihan kauhea asia. Mieti, kun lapsi kuolee vaan. Mun se kaveri, se Rautisen Pekka, se tuttava, niin sen poika Ilkka, niin niillähän tuli kätkykuolema. Se kuoli se oli sohvalla nukkuneet se Ilkka ja se lapsi sen mahan päällä näin, se kuoli siihen. Arvo, kun se Ilkka heräsi siitä, kato, ja kuollut lapsiksi.
Älä nyt juo ennen.
En juo! Mutta eikö tää ihan hyvä idea, että pistää alkoholi? Hei, eikö tää hyvä idea?
Se vesityö on tosi hyvin.
Se on parempi kuin eilen. Se oli, kun mä en ole varmaan viikkoon tätä huoltanut, niin se pääsi vähän huonoon kuntoon. Koska mä en halua sitä ympärileikkausta. Sitä mä en halua. Mä en ymmärrä vielä tänä päivänä, mikä se niinku, mikä tässä on niinku, selitä mulle ympärileikkaus. Tässä on tää.
No se siis on, se liikkuva, mikä leikataan pois.
Miten siellä alla on?
Ei siellä mitään alla. Siis mitään. Se on vaan pieni rengas, mitä siitä leikataan tai avaa.
Kulta.
No.
Tää on juhlapuussa. Se nahka on ihan tiukka.
Niin on.
Niin, jos se otetaan pois, niin miten se sit toimii?
Kyllä se vähän haittaa siitä.
No, niinpä. Haluatko sä jotain?
Minä.
Niin. Onko sun nälkä?
Ei oo.
Onko mä jäätyä? Oh! No jäätyä. No lamppu vihaa.
From the very start, what we're now seeing the European Union becoming, a centralized dictatorship, bureaucratic dictatorship, just like the Politburo, etc., of the Soviet Union, was planned from the start. But there's two techniques that these organizations, this organization uses more than any other to advance its demands and its agenda. One, I called years ago problem, reaction, solution. This works like this. You want to change society in a certain way, and you know that if you openly just announce that's what you're going to do, you're going to get an adverse reaction from the public in large numbers. So you don't announce what you're going to do. You play problem, reaction, solution. Stage one, you create a problem. It could be a terrorist attack, could be a war, it could be an economic collapse, whatever would produce the solution that you're looking for. You then tell the public, through an unquestioning, pathetic mainstream media, the version of this problem that you want them to believe, i.e. Bin Laden orchestrated 9/11 from a cave in Afghanistan. Well, he must have had a good battery on his cell phone then. And you want the public at stage 2 to react to your version of the problem with fear, with outrage, and with words to the effect of something must be done. What are they going to do about it? And those who have covertly created the problem and got someone else blamed for it, got the reaction, do something. They then offer the solutions to the problems they've created, which is why, as a result of 9/11, we are now fast entering deeper and deeper into an Orwellian state justified by fighting terrorism. Now, the other one, very, very significant to the European Union, the other mass manipulation technique, I call the totalitarian tiptoe. And that works like this. You're at stage A, like they were before the common market was, the so-called free trade area was even suggested. And they knew they were going to point Z, which was a fully fledged, centralized United States of Europe, centrally controlled and controlling every area of everyone's life that lives in that region. But if they'd have announced Z or anything like it after the Second World War, when tens of millions of people died stopping the central control of Europe by the Nazis, who wanted to introduce something very similar to the European Union, then there would have been outrage. So what they've done is they sell first at AB a free trade area, nothing to worry about, good for jobs. Don't worry about it, it's just jobs, just trade. And then step by step, all planned, Gabriel, they talk about just to make it more efficient, if we could just have a bit more centralization of power here, it would make it more efficient and work better. And so they've gone on. And it was planned all along, and now we're reaching deeper and deeper into where they really want to go, which is that centralized dictatorship that I talked about. It already kind of is becoming that. I mean, I've seen a figure that something like 75% of laws passed and imposed on Britain now are actually originating in the European Union. And the idea is to, and Irish people need to understand it, it's just like British people and everyone else. The idea ultimately is to destroy nation states and break them up into regions. They want a European Union of regions, and some of the maps have even come to life.
Yeah, I had seen those maps. Now, let me just get back to something specifically within the Lisbon Treaty. We did a show last week, or a couple of weeks ago, on the Lisbon Treaty. We had James Peter Bond and James Reynolds from the Irish Farmers for No. Without even adding in the outcome that this group, this shadowy elite, have, what we're being asked to do is vote on a referendum that we democratically last year said no to. And it's also the same constitution in essence as was shot down in 2005 by both the Dutch and the French. So now in mere weeks we're going out to be supposedly voting again on this democratic treaty. Just from a factual point of view, that alone should have people asking questions without even adding in all of the information that you bring to the table and ask people to join the dots and see the bigger picture, because it's I suppose the erosion of the democracy and the illusion of democracy is being fast tracked. And for example, the signs now are up all over, say in my local area. The government, the Fianna Fáil, who's the party in power at present, have signed.
The hapless Brian Cowen.
I don't want to say anything just in case I get sued.
He always reminds me, whenever I see him, Brian Cowen, as a frightened little boy who's being told off. And you know, the things you're raising here, Gabriel, are absolutely right, because what this second referendum is saying to the Irish people, if they would see it, is you don't matter. We don't care what you think. I'm not kind of a prophet pulling things out of the ether, but within minutes of the Irish referendum saying no, I was saying on my website that they're going to come back for another go because the agenda had got the wrong answer. They're not interested in what the people think. This is a plan that's been playing out decade after decade since the common market was introduced, and they are not going to take no for an answer from mere people who don't matter to them. See, I've been saying for years, when something makes no sense in terms of why something's being done against all kind of evidence that it should be done, when it has no justice in terms of what's being done compared with what's just and right, and no argument or debate put forward against what is being done unjustly and irrationally apparently, then that debate has no effect whatsoever on the outcome. That's the agenda, because the agenda is not going to take no for an answer. That's the idea. And what's happening in Ireland now with the second referendum is it's the agenda of the families saying, we're not taking no for an answer. You go back and do it again. It's not the first time they've done this. This is why it was so easy to predict after the first Irish vote. They did it in Denmark. They've done it elsewhere. Hey, got the wrong result here. You go back and sort it out. And I'll tell you this, because this is the way it works. Brian Cowen would have been given his orders in no uncertain terms. You sort this out. And the reason that Gordon Brown has not had a referendum of the same kind in Britain is because he knows, and the families know, they would have massively lost it. Same with many other countries in Europe. And that's why they changed after the Dutch and French votes rejected the Constitution. They knew then it was not worth going back, because the Dutch and the French were clearly so adamant they were not going to vote yes the second time. So instead of going back on that occasion for a second vote they knew they'd lose, they just change the Constitution into a treaty, and then say, oh, it's a treaty now, so there's no reason for referendums. And only, as I understand it, because of the Irish Constitution, is this vote ever taking place in the first place in Ireland. Without that Constitution, the Irish people would never have been given a chance to vote, because they don't want to hear what the people think. That's not what it's all about. You know, there was a Russian dissident called Vladimir Bukovsky, who visited the European Parliament in 2006, and he is a guy who referred to the European Union as a monster, an absolute mirror of the Politburo, which he knew all about. And interestingly, he said that he was given, when he was in the Soviet Union, access to official documents describing a meeting in January 1989 when David Rockefeller, who is the Rockefeller family are one of these bloodlines. Henry Kissinger, he's an agent for these bloodlines. And the French president, or former French president, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, turned up to visit Gorbachev, January 1989. Now, according to these documents reported by Vladimir Bukovsky, during the conversation, Giscard d'Estaing intervened and said to Gorbachev the following: Mr. President, I cannot tell you exactly when it will happen, probably within 15 years, but Europe is going to be a federal state, and you have to prepare yourself for that. You have to work out with us and the European leaders how you would react to that, how you would allow the other Eastern European countries to interact with it, or how to become part of it. You have to be prepared. Now, he's saying, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, in 1989, that there's going to be a federal state, and he's speaking 3 years before even the Maastricht Treaty turn the community into the European Union. And who drafted the planned the European Constitution that's now the treaty? Giscard d'Estaing. This is, people need to understand this. This is a long-term plan to enslave the people of the world, but to enslave, in the European Union case, the people of the expanding European Union. And the Irish people have a chance to put the brakes on this here, to throw a spanner in the works, and they will regret it for the rest of their lives if they don't say no again.
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly. Again, I want to just make something clear here, so that when people are listening, because what you're saying is, to me, makes sense, but it takes a while for the information to integrate itself in the inside. The signs that are all over from the Fianna Fáil party are vote yes, it's Europe is good for the economy, and other similar signs, which speaks to me that yes, we don't care about democracy. Here is what we are trying to persuade you of, which is the antithesis of democracy. And if people could just see that alone, that one fact, there's no debate, there's no information coming from the elected representatives of the human beings on this nation, in this nation. There is a persuasion and a sales pitch.
In some places up to a 100-foot high wall of water and whatever it's pushing, like houses and dump trucks and schools. Thousands and thousands will not escape. The New Yorker quotes a FEMA official who says, and I quote, "Our operating assumption is that everything west of Interstate 5 will be toast." Everything west of Interstate 5 is gone. That's Seattle, Tacoma, Portland and Olympia, Salem and Eugene, wiped out, altogether about 7 million people. That's not including tourists. So think of summertime. The New Yorker reports that FEMA calculations indicate the disaster will damage or destroy about 1 million buildings, including 3,000 schools and 1/3 of all fire stations. And perhaps the worst part of all of this, these sorts of earthquakes happen at regular intervals in exactly this part of the world, have forever. On average, according to seismologists, about every 240 years. So when was the last one of these? These massive 9.2 or so earthquakes? Well, the last one was more than 300 years ago, the year 1700. It struck in the Pacific Northwest and sent a 600-foot wave of water all the way to Japan. So right now, on average, the Pacific Northwest is decades overdue for the really, really big one.
We often associate volcanic eruptions with the earthquakes that precede the eruption. But what do we know about megaquakes? The largest earthquake ever recorded by seismic instruments on this planet was a magnitude 9.5 earthquake in Chile on May 22nd of 1960. That earthquake occurred on a fault that is almost 1,000 miles long and 150 miles wide, dipping into the earth at a shallow angle. So we know that megaquakes have occurred in our past and are likely to happen again. In fact, earthquakes of various intensity are capable of striking any location at any time. But history shows they occur in the same general patterns over time, principally in 3 large zones of the Earth. One of those zones is referred to as the Circum-Pacific Seismic Belt, the world's greatest earthquake zone located along the rim of the Pacific Ocean, where 81% of the world's largest earthquakes occur. Another of those zones is referred to as the Alpide. It extends from Java to Sumatra, through the Himalayas, the Mediterranean, and then out into the Atlantic. This belt accounts for about 17% of the world's largest earthquakes, including some of the most destructive. The third prominent belt follows the submerged Mid-Atlantic Ridge. This would include the New Madrid fault line. The last significant earthquake to occur in this area was in 1811 and 1812, the most powerful earthquakes to hit the contiguous United States east of the Rocky Mountains in recorded history. In fact, the New Madrid earthquakes were so powerful that they were felt over nearly 1 million square miles. Not only did the quake reverse the flow of the Mississippi, but it damaged the sidewalks in Washington, D.C., and reportedly rang church bells in Boston. The New Madrid is the least understood seismic zone in the United States. It has often been said that another major earthquake in this zone represents a towering threat for which the central United States is almost entirely unprepared. I'm sure you've heard of the expression that if an earth-shattering catastrophe were to occur, that California would eventually fall off into the ocean. Well, that saying is a bit exaggerated, but California is moving horizontally north towards Alaska in a type of sliding motion. The dividing point is the San Andreas Fault System, which extends from the Salton Sea in the south to Cape Mendocino in the north. This 800-mile-long fault is the boundary between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate. The Pacific Plate is moving to the northwest with respect to the North American Plate at approximately 2 inches per year. Now, at that rate, it would take some 15 million years for Los Angeles and San Francisco to be next-door neighbors. Unless, of course, a major pole shift were to occur, in which case the timeline could rapidly change. One important result of earthquakes that should be considered is that the earthquake itself does not kill people. It is the buildings and the contents therein.
maksaa, mutta ei se varmaan ukkosta mitään.
Ei se. Mistä se on?
Joo. Juon vettä. Kiva kun sä tiskasit. Huomenna viedään aamusta kuormia.
Pitää sammuttaa toi eteisen valo sitten.
Mä sammutan. Se on roskasäkki. Eikö
Mä en tiedä mikä se on.
se on roskasäkki se?
Joo, mä en tiedä yhtään mikä se on, mutta...
Mitä?
Et mä sanoin, että mä en tiedä yhtään mikä se on, mutta sen mä tiedän, että toi on roskasäkki toi tossa.
Pitää olla varovainen, ettei mene sekaisin ne roskat.
Juu.
Menee niin
Mä
helposti.
tiedän mikä on.
Mä kammoan jo, mä alkaisin pelkään, mä heitän sun vaatesäkki saatana roska. Siitä tulee hirveä huuto.
Roskasäkki toi.
Ei kun tehdään niin, että sä heität vaan roskia. Sä voi syyttää. Mä nyt laitan lasit tähän.
Niin siis mä näytän, niin tietää mikä on. Sitä se
Mä heitän, soitan.
Se tarkoittaa, että mä näytän mikä mihinkin menee. Juu. Kyllä. Koska mä jaksa mitä isoin.
Ei kun mä pelkään,
roskasäkkejä.
kun se kammottavin ajatus